All right, shalom, everyone. All right, I see some of you braved the cold. Wait, we're getting a new 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Was it not on the first time? Okay, now we live? Okay, Torah Study live, take 2. Okay, you guys watching don't know this is take 2 because you missed take 1 because it didn't go over the live stream. All right, shalom, everyone. Okay, all the jokes will be the same that you heard already. No, I didn't say any jokes. It looks like a few of you are willing to brave the cold. Some people, wherever they live, I know, don't think that we know what cold is here. But you know what? It is in the 30s. It's going to get into the 20s today. That's pretty cold for a lot of places. So, you know, it's good to see, though, some of you decided to make it out here anyway. The rest of you are roasty toasty at home. Good for you. Okay. Actually, I don't mind. I get my excuse only a few times a year to pull out the leather jacket. And so I enjoy those moments when it's actually cold enough to do that. Okay. Well, welcome everyone to Tuesday Night Torah Study. And we're going to be going through this week's Torah portion as we do each week. Okay. And we're going to start off as always. Well, actually, I guess we'll explain this. Do we have any people got on there online right now? Okay, 137. So maybe some of you are new. If you're new, what we're going to do is take up some of the prayer needs and praises we're here in the group here. That'll take a few minutes. And then we're going to read the Torah portion. We'll go through some announcements, and then we'll discuss what we read. Okay, that's sort of our process for the night. Okay, so we'll start with the people in the room. And if you could all not raise your hand at the same time, that would be helpful. I'm kidding. All 8 of you don't have to raise your hand at the same time. Okay, does anybody here have a praise or prayer? While we stall, so Manny could get logged in here and start noting down people's praises and prayers. Nobody. Oh, listen, Manny, you have no help today. All right. He says, thank you. Oh, there you go. Well, I'll stall a little bit, I suppose. All right. So first of all, I do want to make sure that we're praying for all those that have contacted us since the last time we interacted, which was on Shabbat. All right. I also want to, praise Yah that through all that's been going on, that, those in MTOI have not really had too many challenges. I mean, just, it's not because we're special or anything. It's just been just a praise that, we've had very few incidents that have come up. Certainly not here locally, without too much issues, so that's really good. So praise Yah for that. Those of you who talk about climate change, it was 65 degrees 2 days ago, and now it's 30, so that's change. If you do the math, yes, that's a pretty good change. And it will be almost 60 degrees again by the end of the week next, so then, just we're going to be going up and down the typical Tennessee roller coaster. So if you're new to Cleveland, Tennessee, welcome to the Guess the Weather place, okay? Because there's no telling. Because people say, well, what's it like in Cleveland? I don't know, today? Or like generally? Because it's not always the same. Okay, it changes all the time. So whatever weather you like, hang around for a little while. You'll get it at least at some point. Okay, because it will get there and come back and cycle around. And I think last year we had winter and then summer and then spring and then summer, then winter, then I don't know. It went in this weird cycle all throughout the winter into the spring. It was weird. Like we had spring last week. Do you remember that? I mean, it was almost felt like that sort of humid Florida weather at one point is like in the 70s, and then today it's 30. All right, Manny, how are you doing over there? All right, well, let's do the 3, and we'll get into the readings. We'll have a short day. We'll be done before 11.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
You know what I think is funny? Is that they thought that was funny. They're like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, ha, ha, ha.
What's funny is they'll probably start pouring in now. So
that's fine. Just kind of try to grab them as you can.
Okay. Stephanie Henderson praying for Brianna Rebbitzin and Rebbitzin Juliana Bergson. Shirley, prayer requests for financial favor to all.
Okay, hold on. Rebbitzin's fine. Brianna was sick, and then she's better today. But Rebbitzin's fine. Stephen's feeling a little bit, not sure where he's at. He's not sick, but he's feeling tired or something. So
got it.
But Rebbitzin's fine.
Okay.
Of course, she also is staying where it's roasty toasty and didn't come out tonight, so.
Yeah.
She's like, do I have to go? No, you can stay home and be roasty toasty. It's okay. I'll represent the family.
We'll excuse her if she's taking care of Brianna.
Yeah, she's taking care of Brianna.
There we go.
Who is feeling much better. Okay.
Okay, so Kelly would like praise to Yeshua, praise that Yeshua never leaves us and that he is bigger than all our problems.
Amen.
Evangeline, praise Yah for life's challenges and his sustaining me. Lots of prayers for my unspoken requests as well. Erica, many thanks and praises to Yahweh for everything he does for us and gives to us. Miracles big and small. Anonymous mom also praying for Rabbi and Rebbitzin and all of MTOI. Blessed that they are willing to do all that they do. Thank you for serving.
Amen. And look, I think it's a praise when you just get sick, and it's just like you get sick. It's just normal. And then you get better, and we don't have to worry about, are you going to die? Is it COVID and all this other stuff? I mean, you just get a typical cold or flu-type symptoms, and then you get better the next day, and you go, okay, that's all it was. It's weird to praise for her,
For regular sickness.
Yeah, I mean, Brianna had a fever yesterday. She feels great today. It was a one-day thing, and so she didn't go to school, and that was, but it was just sort of a normal thing,
Beautiful. So, okay, let's see. Getting back to this. Janice would like prayer. She says, pray for me to be strong and not give in to pressure of family about Christmas. Let's see. Stephanie Henderson, prayers for our leadership and praises. I will have my very first menorah just in time for Hanukkah.
All right, can I interrupt with a little mini sermon?
Sure.
It's an encouragement, okay? I don't know if I want to say at what point or at some point you need to, but at what point, now don't get upset, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but at what point are you going to own your choice here? In other words, when are you going to own your choice to follow Torah, follow Yeshua, to be obedient and submissive to covenant? Because if you make that choice, why is there any? I'm not picking on the person that asked this, but I run into this all this time of year, every year. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my family. Do you not own your choice? But there is no but. He told you if you made this choice. There was no small print, right? He told you if you make this choice, when you make this choice, you're going to probably have problems with your family. Okay? He said it, which, by the way, helps prove your Bible to be either really lucky to guess or really accurate, okay? I see it as really accurate. And so I encourage you, I'm not picking on the weakness, I'm encouraging you, just own your decision. Because once you make a decision, that means you've cut off all the other possibilities, and that's your choice. And then when somebody comes at you, you can say, I appreciate and understand that you don't agree with my choice, but I made a decision. It was my choice. It wasn't your choice. Your choice is your choice. I'm not going to give you grief about your choice. And by the way, you better not do that. Don't attack them because they're doing Christmas or whatever they're doing. Just say, that's your choice. And if you can't respect my choice, that's okay. That's your choice also. But I think we need to own the decision. Make your choice and then own it. Don't make your choice and then, cross your fingers, your toes, and everything else, hoping nobody's going to bother you about it. That's not making a choice. Okay? He says, you will suffer, I suffered, you'll suffer too. Pick up your cross, so to speak, follow me, etc. They've picked on me, they'll pick on you. It says, blessed are those who suffer undeservedly. I'm just paraphrasing. Those who suffer without a cause, who are persecuted without a cause. Do you not believe the verses? And again, I'm not picking on you. You're in a very common ground place. So whoever wrote that, please don't take this as an attack. It's an encouragement. The solution is not in prayer for your family to do differently. The solution is in prayer for you to own your choice. Are you choosing to be in covenant? Yes. Then own it. Which means I don't care what they may do to me. I made my choice. I'm going to own it. That's my prayer, is that you understand that. This is not going to work well for you if you can't do that. You know why? Why do you think, okay, we're going to get into eschatology for all you end-timers. No way, Rabbi, you're not going to eschatology. Yes, I am. At the end of the 1,000 years, what happens before we get to the kingdom? Hasatan gets released. Why? He wants, because the creator of the universe releases him. Well, why would he do that? That seems dumb. No, he wants to see how many people are owning their choice. How's that for kind of tying it together for you? Hasatan's whole job is to see how hard he can push your buttons, which the Father allows him to do, to see if you will own your choice or if you're going to fold like a deck of cards. Okay? That's really what it's all about. Remember I said making decisions is the reason you exist. That was an important teaching. This is a time of year where all of you who have not yet done this with your family, you haven't really drawn that line, until you do, you're going to deal with this all the time, over and over and over and over again. If you own it, they will realize no matter how much they poke at you, it's no point. And over time, your integrity and commitment won't convince them of anything except it might get them to stop, just because they'll realize they're banging up against a solid wall that has no give, that you're not going to bend, you're not going to break. Okay? And so, own that. All right? Own that. This is about forever, and he needs to poke at you and allow all that poking at you just to see, are you susceptible in any way to bending, breaking, reversing position, breaking covenant. And that, by the way, is Hasatan's job. He's not the problem. Unless, of course, you have a problem. Because then he's going to cheer you on in that area. But if you don't have the problem, there's nothing for him to use. Do you understand that? Okay? So my prayer is that you own your choice to be covenanted, to be a follower of Yeshua, to be part of the kingdom, to be under the blood covering. Own it. Nobody made you do it. You got a choice, lay before you life and death. So you can either choose to enjoy this life, maybe more than you would because you're going to give in to everybody. You think that's going to make all the difference? I don't think it'll really work that way, but you might think so. Or you could focus on what's coming, which I feel very confident to promise you is better than anything that could happen here. Okay? The best here is not even close to the worst that could possibly be imagined there. Okay? And I don't know how we don't sometimes really appreciate that. So I needed to give this mini thing because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are feeling that way on live stream, you guys here as well. I get call after call with people struggling with these things. And then it just hit me. I guess the Ruach just kind of kicked me in the back of the head and said, the reason is they're not owning their decision. Okay? You've got to own your choice. You notice the way I worded that. You have to own it. If you own it, it's yours. Now you realize that if it's your choice, that means nobody can shake your tree, make you think differently. Nobody forced you in this direction. I choose life. Which means I choose what life is. What? The Torah is life. Yeshua is life. The truth is life. I choose life. Own it. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
You guys are too cold to clap for that.
I was going to say, tough crowd. Tough crowd.
They're all like this. Okay, I want to clap. But my hands are frozen under my armpits here. It's warm in here.
Yeah, it is.
It's like normally much colder in here than it is now. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Santi Lee, pray for wisdom and guidance and of relocation from city as government will enforce vaccination to Canadians. Johnny, please keep praying for me. Hope I can get a reconstruction surgeon soon. Connie wants prayers for injection to her lower back, that it'll ease her pain for more than one day. Rabbi Tom, prayer please for an old friend who recently attempted to contact me, and praise for my successful surgery. Amen.
Okay, was that Rabbi Tom right there? Okay. Hello, sir. All right, I need to just kind of guilty and embarrass all of you.
Yes.
Okay? this is important. You need to be embarrassed. Not all of you, but there's a lot of you that will own this, hopefully, and be embarrassed. Because some of you will take almost nothing to stay home from work. Some of you, you just have a little hiccup or this, or you stub your toe, or you just don't feel right, and you're going to call in sick because you don't want to go to work, whatever. Rabbi Tom, in his 70s, had surgery yesterday where they actually went in to replace his pacemaker. They put in a brand new one, so he's supercharged. Okay? And he came down 3 hours drive from Nashville last night and showed up to work first thing this morning. Okay? And then he apologized for not being here tonight. And I said, being here tonight? I said, I can't believe you're here now. I said, I wouldn't have come in after surgery like that, but this is to show you his desire to serve the body and to work and do what he needs to do as a man. So for those of you out there, take that as an example, a standard to try to live up to a little bit. He didn't come in because he was going to be in trouble with his employer or some other thing. I wasn't going to give him any grief. This is his work ethic. And so he got out of bed this morning, and you know what? He had a really great day, and he was feeling good all day until he got a little tired at the end and did, answered a lot of people's questions and all that kind of stuff. But, next time you think about, I don't know, just remember that, okay? Would you come in after having your chest opened up and having a pacemaker replaced and then sewn back up and glued up or whatever they did and then come back to work the next day? Probably not, all right? So I just needed to throw that out there. Good on you, Rabbi Tom. You're setting a fantastic example. All right? Either that or you're really stupid. I don't know. I'm just saying because I would have stayed home. But he felt good. And he wanted to work. Okay? So praise Yah. We miss you here, but we're glad you're home getting some rest. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Amen.
Amen.
Oof. That was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Because I know somebody needed to hear that, who makes decisions because, I just don't, blah. You know what? Unless you can compete with that, get up and go to work, okay? Now, if you're sick, if you actually have something that might be contagious, yes, you stay home. I'm not talking about that, okay? But some of you, it doesn't take a whole lot to decide you're just not going to go in, okay? All right, next.
Okay, next. Evangeline says that she's thankful for and praising Yah for MTOI leadership and Mishpacha, the family. Back to our roots. Uncle is in ICU on life support. Prayers for wisdom and clarity. Brides of the Harvest, please pray for insurance to cover muscular dystrophy infusion treatments. Caroline says, praise Yah that our second lockdown will be eased in the UK from tomorrow. Let's see here. Donna Stevens, praise to Yahweh. I finally got paid after 7 weeks, and I have ordered our Bibles through ISR. Looking forward to receiving them. Praise Abba.
Amen.
Walk softly, praise that financially we are still remaining stable and that we are making great progress on my husband's student loan. We know others are not so blessed. Carrie Ann, prayer request, prayers that all the needs of my Marco Polo sisters and Mishpacha and leadership. Carla Leon, prayers for my health and my family plans. Gail praises my son had successful septoplasty surgery today. Kevin asking prayer for peace and understanding during these times. Vaskin, praise Yah because he is so good.
Amen.
Double would like prayer for difficulties with my marriage and for lower back pain.
Did you say your marriage was lower back pain? Of course, making the person with lower back pain laugh probably wasn't good either. Okay.
From Leanne, praise for Yahweh bringing Raf Tom through his procedure yesterday. Prayer request for our nation and the millions facing homelessness as the eviction moratoriums are lifted. Helen Thrasher, praise Abba, my foot surgery went well and now in recovery on crutches. My personal nerves were blocked and doctor fixed it on 16, taking out stitches and regular shoe and physical therapy. Thanks y'all for your prayers. Uh, 71723 says, wife has been trying to divorce me for over a year. Please pray that God's will be accomplished in this matter. This thing keeps jumping around on me. Give me 1 second. Michelle Perez, prayer for my adult children to have their eyes opened. Michelle Perez, praise Yah for Rabbi Tom. We love you, Rabbi Tom. Isaac, prayers for Lindsay's pregnancy and for the 5 of us having to quarantine because I was exposed to COVID at work. Donna Bannister, asking prayers for Mo's surgery on Monday. Judy, please pray for me regarding my family relationships and for my sister Michelle, that we find a place for her to go soon. And I think I'm caught up. I apologize if I missed anybody else's because the screen kept jumping up and down on me. But
Okay, I just had a thought, and I guess it's only because I'm already in a sense of humor mood. But, okay, so Isaac said he had to quarantine because he was exposed to COVID, and so he needs to stay home. I think that we do need to social distance from all those negative people in your life, from all because that's contagious too. And if you've been exposed to that stuff, you probably need to quarantine from that and social distance from all of the gossiping and the Lashon Hara people. And, okay, quarantine 14 days at least from all of that, yes. And because that also is contagious, as I posted in the TikTok with the SNIOP deal. I just posted that one. So, by the way, interestingly enough, and I haven't been doing it consistently, I'm trying to do better, but here's the funniest thing. In the TikTok, which we then post on Facebook, you know, I've been averaging, or I guess the posts have been averaging, 150, 200, sometimes maybe 300 views. I got one that has 6,000 views. The one about the offering box camera. It's the weirdest thing. 100 views, 200 views, 100 views, 6,000. What? It's the funniest thing. I guess because I mentioned it, during services or something. I don't know. Whatever it was, it's got 6,000 views. The rest of them all have like 100, 200, whatever. Everybody's interested in the offering box camera. It's actually the camera we just used to keep an eye on Manny. It's above his head. Actually, I tease because really Billy sits there now, so it's really the one we used to keep an eye on him. So anyway, but it just takes the full shot of the room in case anybody was to do anything, to break in or we were attacked in any way, because, those things can happen. We hope it never does, but, But anyway, 6,000 views compared to like 100. That's a big difference. It's a big difference. So, but anyway, I think you all need to think about quarantining from all those that are contagious with negative, mindsets and talking and speaking and all that other stuff. I also want to address in the same context of what I said earlier about owning your decisions, because a lot of you are calling here. Now, this is the problem that I still see within the body. It's funny. On the one hand, on the one hand, you guys want to feel like I don't need a covering and I can do whatever I want and I can figure all these things out. And on the other hand, you call completely helpless and unable to make a decision about things that are really yours to do. So it's kind of a strange, disharmonious, conflicting, it's almost like cognitive dissonance, it's like two thoughts that really can't go together. And, one of the things everybody's calling about is what to do when the solution being put forth by the government is finally made available, mandated, whatever it is that they're going to do for this COVID thing. Notice I sneakily didn't use the word. Okay. But you need to own that. Stop just calling me, well, Rabbi, no, don't ask me what to do. Okay? There's lots of things in the world that Scripture does not specifically talk about that you have enough sense, at least maybe now after not knowing it earlier and doing dumb things, but you have at least hopefully enough sense to know we're not good for you, or not healthy, or dangerous in some way. Okay, there's not a single verse that says smoking cigarettes is a problem. You got a lot of Orthodox Jews puffing away like crazy. I used to see them all the time in Manhattan in front of the Diamond District. They were all just outside their stores smoking like chain smokers. But you should have enough sense to realize that's not good for you. But it's not a Torah issue. I know, but it's a, intelligence issue, wisdom issue, some other issue. And so you're going to need to own your decision. So whatever it is that comes out there, you've been told through your life that maybe vitamin C might help with certain health issues, and it's your choice to use it or not. You've been told a lot of other things, garlic and stuff, whatever it is that you've been told in your life can help with it. And some of you have used it, some of you not. You've been told that sugar's bad for you, some of you eat it, some of you don't. But it's your decision, you need to own it. Okay? Stop looking for those kind of things that you ultimately have to own for yourself to have us figure that out for you. It's not the way it needs to be. For halachic things, walking out the walk things, absolutely call. And if you're struggling to make decisions, then call saying, look, I know I need to make this decision, but I'm trying to figure out why I struggle to make decisions, because some of us are very handicapped in that area. I get that. But your choice, when they come out with these things on what you do, it's your choice. Well, I don't want to disappoint the Father. Well, that's between you and Him. Okay? I don't know what necessarily every aspect of every decision in life is going to disappoint Him or not. I know what is explicitly mentioned in Scripture, but there's a lot of stuff that you encounter in your life that's not explicitly listed in Scripture. And He's watching how you make decisions, not just what decision you make. How? Are you making it out of effort to understand, to seek, to make the best decision? Are you making it out of fear? Are you making it out of weakness? Are you making it out of intimidation because somebody, you were intimidated? He wants to see how you decide. That way He can have a guess or an understanding of how in the future you may decide things as well. Now you say, but Yahweh knows everything. Yes, He does, but He wants to see you do it. Well, let's not get around that. He made that choice, not me. For whatever reason, it's clear through Scripture and history and all the stories that you read that He lets it play out so He can see. The whole discussion with Abraham about what he was going to do to Sodom and Gomorrah, that was exactly one of those things. He knew already Abraham's heart on these things, but He wanted to let him have the discussion to see. He says, should I not share with Abraham what I'm planning to do? He already knew what Abraham's response was going to be, but he had to let it play through. Like when He said to Moses, hey, Moses, how about I start again with you and kill all the rest of these crazies? But he already knew Moses' response was going to be what it was, but he let it play through. This is your life. He's watching you. Don't think about only what you do, but how you decided to do. Say that again, because that's really critical. It's not just what you choose to do. I didn't say it wasn't what you choose. I said it's not just. It's not just what you choose to do, but even more important, how you came to the decision. Is that clear? Okay. Manny's furiously writing this down to put it into a meme. All right? And it should be. It's an important one. It's not just what you choose to do. It's even more important how you came to that decision. How did you choose? What influenced your choice? Think about it when you run into this thing we talked about earlier. Well, I don't know what to do. My family's driving me crazy with Christmas coming, and they want this or that, and they're giving me all this grief. Well, your decision on how you handle that's going to be, whatever choice you make is going to be very important. Abba's watching you. On the other hand, even more importantly, He wants to see what has influenced that decision. Were you more influenced by people or by Him? Or by a teacher or by your family member? Or by, you know what I'm saying? He wants to see what went What was the driving force behind the decision? If we cover nothing else tonight, you got all you needed, hopefully, okay, in the prayer time. This is life right there. I told you, one of the things that, it's one of the few times Abba didn't let me sleep, woke me up to do a teaching, was that making decisions teaching. I wasn't planning to do that teaching that day. Wouldn't let me sleep, got up, wrote that teaching, we did it that day, and it's out there. It's one part, but it's for you to understand. And if I could go back, I'd redo the teaching to add the part that it's not just what you choose, but he wants to understand and watch how you made the choice. What were the factors in your decision? Who did you give the most weight to what they had to say? What influence had the most weight? Who were you afraid of? Who were you trying to impress? Whose opinion did you care about the most? Is this making any sense? If you could apply that to everything, I think you'd be in a whole lot better place. Amen? All right, anything else over there, Manny, while you're furiously scribbling? That's it, good. All right, anybody over here? So we got a few people walk in at the, nope, we're good? All right, so let's go before the Father, and let's also open up in prayer. Who would like to open us up? All right, Steve, go ahead and open us up. By the way, we are going to get to a point, men, that I'm going to expect all your hands to go up. You're a man. You should be able to do this, so your hand should go up, and I should get to choose. I shouldn't just be, do I want to pick Manny or Steve? All right? Every man should be able to raise his hand at any moment to do the praying. That's part of the burden we have in our vertical covering for everybody else, is that we pray on behalf of. Like the priest in the home or the priest in the temple did things on behalf of the people. So when I ask who wants to, every hand should go up and I should be able to pick. We do that in the leader meetings. Every hand needs to go up, and they usually do, and then I pick somebody. Okay? Steve, go ahead.
Abba, Father, thank you this evening for giving us a place to gather where it's warm and learn your word with great leadership. Open our minds so we can see what it is you would like us to see this evening. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Amen. And by the way, for that whole thing that I just said to the men, guys, if you don't want to raise your hand, you need to be praying about and meditating on why. Is there a fear problem, insecurity problem, embarrassment problem? What is it? We have had a lot of people pray, and I can tell you, they're not perfect, none of them. I more than anybody, show you how if I'm talking too quickly and thinking faster than the words come out of my mouth, I will trip over my tongue as often as anybody. Okay? So it's not like there's a perfect way to do this. If you're worried about it, practice at home. Okay? It's just, but you should be able to do this. Okay. Tonight's Torah portion brought to you by MTOI. All right, tonight's Torah portion is, I'm on the wrong page. This is the page for the notes. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Vayishlach. I know you're thinking, easy for you to say, Rabbi. Vayishlach. You guys have to practice that. Sound like you're clearing your throat. All right, Vayishlach, which means, and he sent. Okay, Vayishlach. Okay, we have a lot of and he type things. We got Vayishev, Vayigash, Vayishlach. We got a lot of these coming up in the next bunch of Torah portions. And then we got little mikets sort of in the middle of all that. But we got a lot of these Vayi things, which is and he. Okay, Vayishlach. So if you see the last part, shlach, it should also kind of remind you of the word shaliach, which is apostle, which means a sent one. See, so and he sent. Vayishlach. Okay. So I've got 9 readings, so we want to fill up the chairs. Okay, we've got, what do we got there? 7 chairs. All right, we've got to fill them up at least once. Don't everybody run at the same time. You'll trip over each other. Okay, here we go. And we can fill up all of these with 7, and then we'll need 1 more. And then if you want to leave the last one for Manny, I'm sure he'll appreciate that. Okay. Okay, so we have 9 readings. We're going from Genesis 32 and verse 3 all the way to 36:43, which is the end of chapter 36. Okay? Let me just look here. All right. Now, warning, in chapter 36, for sure, we got a bunch of names, so whoever's towards the end of the list there, you got that already lined up, so I'm sure you're already panicking. Okay, anyway, I got a lot of names there. All right, so the way this is going to work, I'm going to call up a reader. We'll say a quick traditional blessing over each reader. I'll tell you what verses you're reading, then you'll go ahead and read. I'll adjust the microphone for you, and then when you're finished, we'll go ahead and switch to the next reader till we read the entire portion. If you're following along here and at home, I want to give you some guidance for that. First of all, you should probably have your Bible out so you can follow along. If you have that, good. And you should also have a way to take notes, because we may, I'm hoping, cover at least one thing or two things that you may want to ask a question about or have a comment about, and so you might want to take a note for that. Even if you don't actually type it into the chat or raise your hand here, it may be something you want to approach one of the leadership about at some point, or it may be just something you go, ooh, I never saw that before. That's really cool, and you want to write it down, okay? I would like you to be listening to the Torah portion. I know for some of you this may actually be the first time, but as if it's the first time. Okay, I've been doing this for almost my whole life. Okay, so I've done the Torah portions a lot. But I still will listen to it like today is the first time I'm listening to it. Okay? As a matter of fact, I've taken no notes prior to today except the notes from last year that I've accumulated that I have on a paper, but I'm going to listen with fresh ears. Haven't prepared for this. I'm just going to listen and receive as you will. Does it make sense? Because I want to listen like you are to see what Abba might want to stir me to say, ooh, that's something I may want to talk about. All right? And so we've got that there. Then what we're looking for, these accounts, as Paul tells us, were written as examples for us. In other words, we're supposed to be able to read them and learn something from them that we can apply in our own lives. Okay, so that's what, I know it's very traditional that everybody who does these things says, we're looking for Messiah in the Torah portion. That's great, we should, that's fine. But that's not what we've been doing through this cycle. What we've been doing in this cycle is saying, not so much looking for Messiah, but let's look for you. Okay, because if you find Messiah in it, that's great. Wow, look what I found. I found Messiah in it. But what can you do with that? Nothing. It maybe strengthens your connection between the New and the Old Testament, but other than that, there's not much you can do with that. But if you can find you in it, now you've got something. Because now you can say, oh, I'm like that person. I might have made that mistake, or I might have made that decision that way. Or you might see somebody doing something that would be the way you did it, and it turns out it was right. And you say, that's good. That's the way I would have done it. Now I feel good about it. I would have done the same thing. Okay? So I want you to look for you and what you can relate to in the Torah portion. We're going to read about a lot of things here, and in the Torah portion, we're going to see some things that go pretty south, and when it goes sideways here, you can realize, who in the story can you relate to and the kinds of decisions they made. Amen? Okay, so let's go with that. Okay, so let's start off with Mr. Steve. Come on up. All right, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Steve, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to start us off in chapter 32 and read verses 3 through 18.
And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, in the land of Seir, the field of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, Say to this to my master Esau, your servant Jacob said this, I have sojourned in Laban and stayed there until now. I have bulls, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants. I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes. So that the messenger returned to Jacob, saying, We have come to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, so he divided his people, so that there were with him and flocks and herds and camels into 2 groups. And he said, if Esau comes to one group and strikes it, then the other group which is left shall escape. And Jacob said to Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Yitzhak, Yahweh, who said to me, return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. I do not deserve the least of all the loving commitment. Do I not deserve the least of all the loving commitment and all your truths which you have shown your servant? I have passed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the land of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and strike me and the mother of the children. And the mother with the children. 11? Oh, 18. Okay. For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and I shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there and took what came to his hand as a present for Esau his brother, and 200 female goats, and 20 male goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 suckling camels with their colts, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 foals. And he gave into the hand of his servant, and drove by himself, and said to his servants, pass over before me, and put some distance between drove and drove. And he commanded the first one, saying, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, to whom you belong, where are you going, and whose are these in front of you? Then you shall say, they are your servant Jacob's. It is your present sent to my master Esau, and see, he is also behind us.
Amen. All right, Janet. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Janet, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 19 to the end of the chapter 32.
Thank you. So he commanded the second and the third and all who followed the droves, saying, speak to Esau this same word when you find him. And you shall say, also, look, your servant Yaakov is behind us. For he said, let me appease him with the present that goes before me, and after that see his face, he might accept me. And the present passed over before him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaks. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have blessed me. So he asked him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, your name is no longer called Jacob, but Israel, because you have striven with Elohim and with man, and have overcome. And Jacob asked him, saying, please let me know your name. And he said, why do you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him, and he passed over Penuel, and he limped on his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of the hip.
Amen. All right, Hillary. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Hillary, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now to chapter 33 and read the whole chapter, which is 20 verses.
And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw Esau coming, and with him 400 men. And he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the female servants and their children in front, and Leah and the children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children, and said, "Who are these with you?" And he said, "The children with whom Elohim has favored your servant." Then the female servants came near, they and their children, and bowed themselves. And Leah also came near with her children, and they bowed themselves. And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" And he said, "To find favor in the eyes of my master." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Let what you have remain yours." And Jacob said, "No, please, if I have now found favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you were pleased with me. Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all I need." And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, "Let us depart and go, and let me go before you." But he said to him, "My master knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flocks shall die. Please, let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly, according to the pace of the livestock that go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Seir." And Esau said, "Please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "Why this? Let me find favor in the eyes of my master." And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob set off to Succoth, and built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of this place is called Succoth. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, which he came from Paddan Aram. And he pitched his tent before the city. And he brought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 kesetath. And he set up a slaughter place there and called it El Elohei Israel.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Hillary. Shannon? He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shannon, who's come out to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now to chapter 34 and read verses 1 through 17.
And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the land, saw her, and took her, and lay with her, and humbled her. And his being clung to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl, and spoke kindly to the girl. And Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Take this girl for me for a wife." And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Yaakov kept silent until they came. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Yaakov to speak with him. And the sons of Yaakov came in from the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved and very wroth, because he had done a senseless deed in Israel by lying with Yaakov's daughter, which should not be done. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, My son Shechem's being longs for your daughter. Please give her to him for a wife. And intermarry with us, and give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourselves. And dwell with us, and let the land be before you. Dwell and move about in it, and have possessions in it. And Shechem said to his father and her brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I give. Ask of me a bride price, and after ever so high, and I give according to what you say to me, but give me the girl for a wife. But the sons of Yaakov answered Shechem and Hamor's father, and spoke with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. And they said to them, We are not able to do this matter, to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Only on this condition would we agree to you, if you become as we are, to have every male of you circumcised, then we shall give our daughters to you, and take your daughters to us, and we shall dwell with you, and shall become one people. But if you do not listen to us and be circumcised, we shall take our daughter and go.
Amen. All right, Olivier. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Olivier, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from verse 18 to the end of chapter 34.
And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man did not delay to do this, because he delighted in Yaakov's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. And Hamor and Shechem, his son, came to the gate of their city, and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us, so let them dwell in the land and move about in it. And see, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters for us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition would the men agree to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us is circumcised as they are circumcised, their herds and their possessions, on all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them, and let them dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and Shechem, his son. Every male was circumcised. All who went out of the gate of his city. And it came to be on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of the sons of Yaakov, Shimon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came boldly upon the city and killed all the males. And they killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Yaakov came upon the slain and plundered the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth. And all their little ones and their wives they took captive, and they plundered all that was in the houses. And Yaakov said to Shimon and Levi, You have troubled me by making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And I am few in number, and they shall gather themselves against me and shall strike me, and I shall be destroyed, my household and I. But they said, Should he treat our sister like a whore?
All right, Brian. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Brian, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us now to chapter 35 and read verses 1 through 15.
And Elohim said to Yaakov, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there. and make a slaughter place there to El, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Yaakov said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign mighty ones that are among you, and cleanse yourselves and change your garments. And let us arise and go up to Bethel, and let me make there a slaughter place to El, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. So they gave Yaakov all the foreign mighty ones which were in their hands, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And Yaakov hid them under the terebinth tree, which was near Shechem. And they departed, and the fear of Elohim was upon the cities that were all around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Yaakov. And Yaakov came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And he built there a slaughter place and called the place El Bethel, because there Elohim appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. And Devorah, Rivka's nurse, died, and she was buried below Bethel under the terebinth tree. So the name of it was called Elon Bakuth. And Elohim appeared to Yaakov again when he came from Padan Aram and blessed him. And Elohim said to him, your name is Yaakov. Your name is no longer called Yaakov, but Yisrael is your name. So he called his name Yisrael. And Elohim said to him, I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and increase. A nation and a company of nations shall be from you, and sovereigns come from your body. And the land which I gave Abraham and Yitzhak I give to you, and to your seed after you I give this land. And Elohim went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Yaakov set up a standing column in the place where he had spoken with him, a monument of stone, and he poured a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. And Yaakov called the name of the place where Elohim spoke with him, Bethel.
Amen. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless George, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, George, take us now from verse 16 to the end of the chapter.
Then they set out from Bethel, and it came to be, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath, that Rahel began to give birth and had great difficulty giving birth. And it came to be, as she was having great difficulty giving birth, that the midwife said to her, do not fear, for it is another son for you. And it came to be, as her life was going out, for she died, that she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rahel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Yaakov set a standing column on her burial place, which is the monument of Rahel's burial place to this day. And Yisrael set out and pitched his tent beyond the Tower of Eder. And it came to be, when Yisrael dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Yisrael heard about it. Now the sons of Yaakov were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Yaakov's firstborn, and Shimon, and Levi, and Yehudah, and Yissaschar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rahel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rahel's female servant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's female servant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Yaakov, who were born to him in Padan Aram. And Yaakov came to his father Yitzhak at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Yitzhak had dwelt. And the days of Yitzhak were 180 years. So Yitzhak breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, aged and satisfied of days. And his sons Esau and Yaakov buried him.
So I guess you got the short straw, huh? He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Chantel, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah, may the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands and help her to pronounce these names. Amen. Okay, chapter 36, verses 1 to 22.
And this is the genealogy of Esau, who was Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Sibon the Hivite, and Basemath, Yishmael's daughter, sister of Nebaioth. And Adar bore Eliphaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Yeush, and Yalam, and Korah. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the beings of his household and his herds and all his beasts and all his possessions which he had gained in the land of Canaan, and went to a land away from the presence of his brother Yaakov. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojournings could not support them because of their herds. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom. And this is the genealogy of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These were the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, son of Adah, wife of Esau, and Reuel, son of Basemath, wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Sepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz. And Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Reuel, Nahath, and Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Sibon, and she bore to Esau Yeush and Yalam and Korah. These were the chiefs of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz. The firstborn son of Esau were chief Teman, chief Omar, chief Sepho, and chief Kenaz, chief Korah, chief Gatam, chief Amalek. These were the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. They were the sons of Adah. And these were the sons of Reuel, Esau's son: chief Nahath, chief Zerah, chief Shammah, and chief Mizah. These were the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. And these were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife: chief Yeush, chief Yalam, and chief Korah. These were the chiefs descending from Oholibamah's, Esau's wife, the daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these were their chiefs. These were the chiefs of Seir, the Horite, who inhabited the land: Lotan and Shobal and Sibon and Anah, and Dishan and Etzer and Dishan. These were the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. And the sons of Lotan were Hori and Hamam. Lotan's sister was Timnah.
Amen. Good job. You still got a few for you left for you, Manny. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Manny, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us from verse 23 to the end of the chapter.
Verse 23, 36, 23. Okay, here it goes. And these were the sons of Shobal: Alwan, and Menahath, and Aibal, and Shepho, and Onam. And these were the sons of Tishbon, both Aya and Anna. And this was Anna who found the water in the wilderness as he fed the donkeys of his father's Tishbon. And these were the children of Anna, Dishon and, Oholibama, thank you, and the daughter of Anna. And these were the sons of Dishon, Hemdan and Eshban and Yithran and Keran. These were the sons of Etzer, Bilhan and Sa'awan and Akan. And these were the sons of Dishan, Uts and Aran. These were the chiefs of the Horites, Chief Lotan, Chief Shubal, Chief Tishbon, and Chief Anah, Chief Dishon, Chief Etzer, Chief Dishan. These were the chiefs of the Horites according to their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these were the sovereigns who reigned in the land of Edom before any of the sovereign reigned over the children of Israel. And Bela the son of Beor reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinabah. And Bela died, and Yobab son of Zerah and Botzerah reigned in his place. And Yobab died, and Husham of the land of Temanites reigned in his place. And Husham died, and Hadad son of Bedad, who struck Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his place. And the name of the city was Awith. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. And Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. And Shaul died, and Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, reigned in his place. And Baal Hanan, son of Akbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his place. And the name of the city was Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetab El, and the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. And these were the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans, and the places by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alwa, Chief Yetheh, Chief Olibama, Chief Elah, Chief Pinon, Chief Kenaz, Chief Timan, Chief Mitzbar, Chief Magdiel, Chief Iram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession. Esau was the father of the Edomites.
Amen. As you walk by, Steve goes, "What's up, Chief?" You know, I noticed something interesting. For those of you that are, hold on, get this to the right height here. For those of you that have problems with dyslexia, okay, I noticed that all people tend to do this. When you don't know a word, you actually start to do some dyslexic things. So like when it says mibtsar, you said mitzbar, and a lot of people do that. And it's just interesting how all of you did that with names that you didn't know. So when we see a word we don't know, it might be an interesting thing to learn about the way the brain works. But we tend to, the way our brain would want to pronounce it, mix some of the letters up. Okay? Because it's easier to go mitzbar than mibtsar. So our brain just reverses it. Maybe. I don't know. It just was interesting. So not picking on anybody who did that. I was just noticing it's sort of a consistent thing that people do when they don't know, how to pronounce something. So anyway. That being said, excellent job by everybody. Thank you all the readers. Okay, the traditional blessing after the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. Amen. All right. So we're going to go over some announcements here. We'll do that real quickly. All right. So first, I do want to welcome our guests. We do have some guests, I'm sure, online there. How many you got online, Manny? 327 computers logged on today. I'm sure some of them are new and our guests. We do want to make you feel welcome. We are children of Abraham, and we should exemplify his reputation for hospitality. Okay, so for the guests especially, we do this every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time, so you're welcome to come back. This is something we do every week. We also meet every week on Saturday, okay? So Shabbat, we meet at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, we start at 1:15, the live stream, a 1:15 Eastern time. So you're welcome to join us for that. Okay, for the Torah portions, we also have a program for the youth called Parsha Pearls. Okay, so this has its own website. So our website is MTOI.org. The children's website is YMTOI.org. Stands for Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites. And we have a program there called Parsha Pearls. It's broken up into two categories, gem seekers and pearl seekers. Gem seekers are the younger children, generally ages 5 through 8. And pearl seekers are older, ages 9 through basically whatever. It's meant to be handled by all the children of all ages. We also call the younger ones Katan Aleph. Katan in Hebrew means small. And Aleph is obviously the first letter of the Aleph Bet. And then the older ones are called Katan Bet. And then we also put with the Katan Bet the Gadol kids, and Gadol means big. So we have the smaller and the larger, the older kids together. So this program is a PDF that you can download and you can print out. It has so much material in it. It's got child-friendly stories. It's got lesson questions, Hebrew word studies, all regarding the Torah portion that week, memory verses, word searches, crossword puzzles, mazes, crafts, notebook pages, coloring pages, songs, and snacks. Okay, so it's got a tremendous amount of stuff. All of those things are all Torah portion related to that week's Torah portion. All right, so enjoy that. It's free. You can download it, use it with your Sabbath school, use it during your homeschooling, whatever it is that you'd like to use it for. Some of you have asked, well, I don't know what to do with my children on Shabbat. Well, here you go. This would keep them busy, believe me, the whole day. And they'll enjoy it, too, because there's fun things to do. Okay, a lot of fun things to do. Okay, we also have audio scripture readings done by our own Shira Wendling, and they're found on the MTOI website under audio, under media, under audio scripture readings under our media tab. And so we have all the Torah portions, including also the Psalms, the Proverbs, the 4 Gospels, the book of Acts, and the book of Joshua. Okay, so we have a lot of the scriptures already there. And so you can go ahead and look at those and download them. They're also downloadable. So if you like to listen to the word, you can do that through the audio scripture readings. Okay? All right, so upcoming events on our calendar. So this Friday, the 4th. Wow, it's also already December. Can you believe that? Wow. Okay, so Friday is our December Erev Shabbat get-together. Okay, so we'll have our meal at 6 o'clock for those of you that are here, and then we'll hopefully get started eating sometime between 6 and 6:30, and so we'll just be gathering together to do our Erev Shabbat little service that we'll do, and then have our meal, okay? We're not going to be streaming this, but it's for those of you that are here. Okay, then on Monday, the following Monday, December 7th, is our Chanukiah making party here at Beth Shalom. So if you have children that are here and you would like to have them make a Chanukiah for Hanukkah that's coming up more towards the middle of the month, we're going to have a few days in advance this Chanukiah making party. So when I grew up and I went to Hebrew school, this is something we did every year. They had, especially the younger children, would make a lot of times out of clay. We actually had someone who knew how to work with clay, and we had a kiln so we could actually fire the clay. And so we would make, of course, back then we probably used lead paints to paint them with. What did I know? Back then this is the mid to late 60s. So I was like 6, 7 years old, in the 60s. But anyway, but we would make these things. And then other years we would come to realize we can make them out of wood. You can use the screws from nuts and bolts type of thing. So you can use the nut and you can stack a few of them up, and the candle could fit in that. Or the picture you see on the screen is someone using Legos upside down. You can put candles in that. So anything that allows you to put 9 candles. Usually we make the shamash candle a little bit higher up, so that's the servant candle. So we make it a little bit taller, so which is that one, if it's not always in the middle. But if it is, either way, it's usually the taller one. So we're going to encourage you to come if you want with your children. We would like at least one parent per children, not per child, but if you have 2 or 3 children, as long as one of the parents is with them, that would be great to help them with the project. It's a great family bonding thing, especially for the dads. Not everybody has dads around, but if there's a dad around, it's great if the dads can be there, or a granddad could be there, or any of those an uncle can be there. Some of the children, to get the men involved with the children is fantastic. A lot of times the children end up working with the moms only. A lot of these things are always the moms. So when I had our children going to the Chabad when they were very little, they had the dads do this. This is a father-daughter, father-son type of thing, okay? And so I got to do that with my children. And we're going to supply some supplies that we're hoping to get from Lowe's, Home Depot, things like that, just scraps of wood and other types of things that could be used to make crafts with. You can put beads, you could put, like you can see on the craft there's some little letter beads so you could spell things out, like Happy Hanukkah or something like that on there. So, or you could put your name or whatever it is that you want to put on there. So it's just a fun way for the children to engage in making a Chanukiah, all right? It's from 5:30 to 7:30 on Monday night, okay? 5:30 to 7:30 Monday night, December the 7th, okay? We're going to ask you to bring supplies, so if you have other things, crafty type stuff, any things you got lying around that you think could be used to make this with, that'll be great. Bring things like, I think we'll also have glue, we'll have paints, we'll have markers, I mean, all kinds of ways, coloring it, decorating it, painting it. Paint is the least desirable in some ways because you have to wait for it to dry, and we don't always have a lot of time to lay these things out and let them dry, but we can use crayons and markers and whatever it is, we can color these things up, that'd be fine. Okay, we're also going to ask you to bring sufganiyot, which is the jelly donuts. You're asking, what does jelly donuts have to do with anything? Who cares? Just bring jelly donuts. Okay. Why do you just, I told you have an excuse to bring jelly donuts. Isn't that enough? Okay. So because of the tradition that a lot of the celebration of Hanukkah has to do with the oil, okay, the idea that they got to make the oil for the Ner Tamid, for the eternal flame, was a process that took about a week, about 8 days to make. And so the tradition is to eat things that are basically fried in oil and that kind of stuff. So potato pancakes, or known as latkes. By the way, the latkes, not latkes. Okay, just like it's Pesach that's coming, not Pesach. It's not a pair of socks. It's not a Pesach. Okay? So jelly donuts they're deep-fried fat sponges. Now you really want one, don't you? Covered in sugar and filled with jelly. Okay, anyway, so we can bring some of those if you'd like to share with the people that are there, okay? Please RSVP and let Chantel, who did so well with the names there, let her know that you're coming. RSVP, chantel.jackson@mtoi.org. Okay, so if you're coming, please let her know so we can plan for how many people are coming. Okay, next. Hanukkah is starting on December the 11th. It goes to the 18th, okay? All right, Hanukkah is December the 11th through 18th. The first candle is lit the night before on December 10th, okay? So on December 10th, we're going to light the first candle. And so that'll be on Thursday night the 10th. Okay, on December 12th, on that Saturday, we'll be doing a special program that the children are going to be presenting with some songs and things like that after our after-service meal, after the oneg, okay? So we'll have a Hanukkah program. Okay, Brianna is working with them to learn some songs and to sing with them, so that'll work out really well. Okay, on December the 13th, we have our leadership meetings. So Billy will be sending out the email to everyone to let you know and remind you about the meetings, but if you're listening now, just a reminder to have that be on December the 13th. Okay, December 15th, on that Tuesday, it's a Rosh Chodesh for Tevet, and it's also Torah Study. All right? Okay? So we'll be streaming the Rosh Chodesh service first. It's only around 15 minutes, and then we'll go right into our Torah Study. So you get sort of a double bonus, but you're also going to lose out a little bit. So your double bonus is that we have a Torah Study and Rosh Chodesh. The lose out a little bit is I probably won't give you the mini sermon as long for the Rosh Chodesh as I might usually do, but we're going to have a Torah Study, so you get plenty of it anyway. Okay. That day, like we tend to like to do whenever we have a Rosh Chodesh, we'll also be eating together. Okay? Another excuse to get together and eat. So let's plan to be here again for 6 o'clock. Hopefully we get started by about 6:30, and then we'll have the Rosh Chodesh at 8 o'clock. That will be streamed. The 8 o'clock and then into the Torah Study will be streamed. Okay, but it'll be streamed as one event. So, right, Marty, we can do it as one event? Okay, so it'll be Rosh Chodesh plus Torah Study as one YouTube event. Okay, so one will just flow right into the other. Okay, then on March 26th through April 4th, it's Pesach. I'm sorry, Pesach. Okay. It's Pesach 2021, which is March 26th to April 4th. Now, Passover is actually Saturday night, March the 27th. Okay, so but we're going to have you come here. If you're coming for the event on Friday, we'll be doing our checking in so that we can get it done before Shabbat. And then we'll have Shabbat together. Then we'll have the Passover meal Saturday night. Sunday is the first holy day, and the following Saturday is the last holy day, okay? So March 28th and April 3rd are the two holy days. So plan for that. The registration forms are available on the MTOI website under Pesach 2021 or Passover 20. I don't know. It says Passover. I think it says Passover 2021. Okay, so look for that and go ahead and register. How many do we have, George, already? 78 people registered. All right, fantastic. We're almost up to 100 people already. All right. So go ahead and register for that. That will be hosted right here in Cleveland, Tennessee. It will be done in a very similar way to what we did for Sukkot, minus the leavened bread. Okay, otherwise it'll be very similar. Okay, so you can either fill out the online registration form, which is there'll be a link that takes you through an online registration, or you can go ahead and click on the form and download it and print it. And we have a printable PDF that you can then mail in if you'd like. Okay. If you fill out the online form, you could also pay online. If you print out the printable form, you can still pay online through like PayPal, or you can go ahead and send a check or money order and do it that way. All those instructions are on the paperwork. All right, so that's going to cover it for the announcements there. It's funny, I was just thinking when I said the deal about Pesach versus Pesach. You know, I got in a lot of trouble. I know you find that surprising, but much to your surprise. So years ago, many, many moons ago, I was doing on Hebrew Nation Radio. How many of you know what Hebrew Nation Radio is, right? Okay, it doesn't exist anymore as a radio station, but it is online. Okay, and we do actually have a show on there, right? What do we have, once a day, twice a day? Twice a day I'm on there every day, so on Hebrew Nation Radio pretty much. And it's HebrewNation.something, but just look it up, you'll find it. But the point is that we used to do what was called a Torah Teacher Roundtable. And they would invite different theoretically qualified Torah teachers to, usually about 4 or 5 of us, to sit there each week for 2 hours and discuss the weekly Torah portion, which was always interesting to watch 5 teachers fighting for microphone time when you figured out that 2 hours divided by 5 people doesn't make for a lot of time each, okay? So you can imagine how much fun that was, especially when we would be like, oh, I'll be quick, and we're all starting to laugh when anybody said that. Oh, I'll be quick. Quick, what does that mean, 20 minutes? What does quick mean for you? So anyway, and I just kind of got to a point where I was getting a little bit frustrated with these so-called Torah teachers because, see, when people are listening to people that they are assuming and are being put forth as leaders, teachers, experts, what is the tendency of the people listening? To follow and imitate. And they kept butchering the Hebrew of most of the things that they were saying until finally I said, excuse me, okay? On behalf of all of us that were raised with Hebrew and, from the Jewish community, can you please stop butchering the words? I'm going to teach you the right way to say whatever. And it might have been something like Pesach, okay? I said, that is the correct way to say the word. And they got all mad at me. I said, I don't know. I would be saying thank you. I'm glad I'm not saying it wrong anymore, okay? And so, if I was going into a place where the language was, Spanish, French, whatever it was, a different language that I'm used to speaking, I would want to know if I've been saying the word wrong the whole time, pronouncing it with the wrong accent or putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable or whatever it was. I'd want to know. As my father used to say, I had the emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's what he told me every time I made that mistake. I said, I hear you loud and clear right there. I got it. Okay. So, anyway, that was just a reminder when we were talking about Pesach versus Pesach. But anyway. Okay, you guys got to learn that just clearing the throat thing. Pesach. Okay? Chanukah. Okay? Anyway, that'll do it. It's not Chanukah. Okay? Are you guys doing Chanukah? No. What is it? We're doing Hanukkah. Okay. And if you want to understand Hanukkah, because some of you online are going, why are they doing that? Listen to a teaching I have called The Time to Rededicate Yourself. It covers all that. Also one called The Story of Hanukkah. The Story of Hanukkah? The Story of Hanukkah, okay? All right. I always forget what I call that teaching. The Story of Hanukkah. Okay, there you go. All right, so you can listen to those things. It's about rededication. It is not about presents. Oh, I guess I should say that as we'll keep going towards Hanukkah here in a couple of weeks. Okay, actually it's about 10 days. It's not a time of like taking all your Christmas thoughts and moving them over to Hanukkah. Okay, Hanukkah does not have gifts connected to it. Gift giving is not a part of it. So don't do that, okay? The only time that gift giving was connected to anything actually was more with Purim. It actually says it in the book of Esther, okay, that there was a giving of gifts to some sort of degree. Don't turn that into Christmas either, okay? So I would just say let's just not do any of that stuff. But it has no connection whatsoever to Hanukkah. It was something that the Jews in New York in the 60s started doing, and it caught fire, and everybody started doing it. So it's a very new tradition to give gifts on Hanukkah, okay? All right. Okay, let's see. Some of you are like, but now you said Hanukkah a few times. Well, I hurt my throat already. Trying to give you that sound. Okay. You guys ready for the discussion? Well, sorry to disappoint you, but I'm done. Go home. All right, here we go. You ready? All right, we're going to do this. We're going to do this in two ways, okay? One is we're going to want to do this somewhat chronologically. So let's please try to start somewhere around Genesis 32 and try to catch the story as it flows. Ask your questions, make your comments, mostly in that order. I have a few things I may jump around with a little bit myself in trying to make a point about a verse in chapter 32 and may go somewhere else. But let's try to follow the flow. And again, reminder that we're looking for things that you can glean for yourself out of it as much as we can. Okay, who would like to go first?
All right.
Do you guys want to do rock, paper, scissors? What is it? What?
All right. 32, 3, and 4. And I guess a comment.
No, I want you to just do 32. Not 33 or 34.
No.
I knew what you meant.
All right. Because he was unsure of his relationship, he sent someone ahead to see the standing. Even after hearing what seemed good, he still feared. So isn't this a good example of fear ruling our decision? Didn't you just say it's not what we decide, but the factors in which brings us to make that choice?
Okay, so you're interpreting that, and rightly so to a certain degree, that Jacob is doing this all out of fear. Yes and no, okay? You also have to understand culture. That's part of having perspective. That's part of our context. So in the culture, if you're approaching someone of authority, you usually approach them with gifts. You may send your entourage to meet their entourage, so to speak, and you don't just go and see them. You send others ahead of you to let them know you're coming, so you don't just surprise them, all right? And so this was part of the culture as well. Now, of course, Jacob is afraid. Jacob is definitely having some fear issues. But I think some of the protocol he's doing here is actually protocol, not just fear. So we have to kind of combine those two things together, all right? So he's doing a common protocol, but he's doing it out of fear. But he's also hoping that the way he does this protocol will convey to his brother, because look at the words he says. He says, I want you to say, your servant. Okay, 32:4 says, and he commanded him, saying, say this to Master Esau. First of all, he calls him Master Esau. Your servant Yaakov. He wants to smooth over by helping his brother understand, I don't come to you now thinking I'm the big whatever because I have your blessing and I have the birthright. I'm going to honor you and recognize your authority as the firstborn and say your servant Yaakov. Okay? So this is all protocols of the culture, but also he's afraid. Okay? So I think he would have done this even if he wasn't afraid. It's the right way to go. Okay? This is how you go. Now, It may also have been from the culture that if you don't send ahead of you people and you just wanted to show up, it's because you're trying to do a little surprise showing up and you've got the power and the authority. Look how Yahweh just showed up to Abram. You know, we see that. Yahweh just shows up with his 2 messengers. Doesn't send anybody ahead, doesn't do anything else. Because he actually had the authority and he would just show up. Okay? But this was the polite, respectful way where either a subordinate would meet a leader or an equal would meet another equal to send messengers ahead and gifts and things to also to convey I'm coming in peace. All right? I have no ill intent. Okay? And so it would not feel as confrontational. All right? What else?
Okay, then. In 9, I saw that as maybe a trust issue, because here Abba's telling Yaakov go back to his land, but it seems like he's asking for reassurance for his safety. So isn't that something a little bit there on that?
Say it again, in 9? What was
On
it?
32:9, it
Yeah.
seems like, to me, there's a little bit of a trust issue, because even though after Abba's telling him, I'm going to take care of you and sending you back, he still seems like he's having a conversation with the father saying, well, don't forget, show me favor, deliver me from my brother's hand. Seems to be that discussion going on.
Yeah, but hold on. But remember, Yahweh's not speaking anywhere here. He's quoting Yahweh to Yahweh. He's still coming from the same spot. All right? Yaakov said, "O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim my father Yitzhak, Yahweh who said to me in the past, return to my land." He's just sort of reminding him, remember when you told me I should return to my land? Can I just count on you for that? Okay? He said, "I know I don't deserve the least of all the kind acts and all the truth which you have shown," in verse 10. Okay? "But deliver me, I pray." Look, the vertical relationship is still developing, which is why you see, towards the end of our Torah portion, that Yahweh reaffirms the promises, okay, to him. All right? Okay, Janet?
Hot mess today. Sorry, Rabbi. I was thinking about the same verse that Steve was talking about. Yaakov was obviously afraid because what he did right to the birthright and all that. But even in his distress, he prayed for deliverance, I suppose. So that was what I took from this portion, that even if I mess up because of my own wrongdoing, but I can still come to Yahweh and ask him to help me and show me the way out, or I'm not reading it correctly.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, let's kind of analyze this for a second. Okay, so we are wondering if Yaakov should have been afraid. Well, why was he afraid? And that's just because obviously Esau was angry, and at least the last time he knew it, Esau was angry and was threatening to kill him. But why was he afraid, even in the face of all these things that Yahweh had done for him? He was afraid for the very simple reason that you would be afraid. This was an unresolved threat. Okay? The threat was still unresolved. He did not know. It was an unknown. What do we generally get afraid of more than anything else? Unknown things. Right? Fear of the unknown. He already knew that he had gotten, the whole thing with Lavan was done, although until he actually left and Lavan and him made the agreement, he was afraid Lavan was going to come and try to kill him too and bring the family back. So anything that's unknown tends to be the problem, okay? And so here was this, yeah, I know you said you'd get me back, but it wasn't clear that I was going to run into Esau on the way back. And now Esau is here. He wasn't expecting that. Because word came to him, by the way, your brother's just around the bend over there. He's like, uh-oh. I don't know where Esau is at, in his head on all of this. Where is he at? Is he going to come and kill me? Is he going to welcome me back? What's going on? Okay? And so that's why he's where he's at. It's an unresolved. So when you say the things in my life and this and that, well, use this as a lesson for if you're afraid, what is the unresolved threat, at least in your mind? And by the way, you may realize it actually is resolved. You just haven't accepted it. Because some of you are still afraid of things that are no longer a threat, but you were so used to the whatever it was being a threat for so long that now that it's no longer a threat, you forgot to let it go. But this was an unknown. He just didn't know. So he sends the servants, he sends all the gifts, he sends these wonderful sounding messages. He's very humble. He says, your servant. He says that in verse 4. He also says it in 33, verse 5. Okay? He says, and he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children and said, who are these with you? And Jacob replies, the children with whom Elohim has favored your servant with. So now he's face to face saying the same thing, your servant. Constantly reminding him, I still see you in the higher position so that you don't think that I'm going to come. Because he could have said, hey, excuse me, big brother, I've got the blessing, I've got the birthright, knock it off. But rather, he chose the humble way. Okay? So I think that's what you see going on. And by the way, when we talk about the idea of grace, okay, the Hebrew word for grace is chen. Got to use that throat thing again. Chen. And you see in 32:5, it says, and I've sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes. So he sent the donkeys, the bulls, all these things to find favor or grace in your eyes. So he's hoping to merit favor. You see this again in 33:10. Okay? It says, and Yaakov said, no, please, if I've now found favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand. You see this in 33:15. Esau says, please let me leave with you some of my people who are with me. And he said, why this? Let me find favor in your eyes. In other words, if I can find favor in you, you'll trust me. If I've done anything to merit any favor, you'll trust me. You don't need to leave people here. You know, it's disrespectful like to show that maybe you don't trust me. You want to leave people here. I can handle these things. 34:11. Okay? And Shechem said to her father and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say I may give you. In other words, what can I do to merit favor? This goes back to the search for the doctrine of grace teaching, okay? So you can understand grace, which is not unmerited favor, because grace, which Christianity gives you, is a combination of mercy and grace. They took grace, which is merited, and mercy, which is unmerited, and slammed them together. Okay? But here you see it play out over and over again. It's like, hey, if I've done anything pleasing in your sight, don't kill me, or allow me to do this, or allow me to do that. You see Shechem and his father doing the same thing, saying, hey, what can I do to earn favor, to merit favor, so that we can make this thing happen between our children? Okay? And again, this was not under fear of death. This was like, because he didn't know that the two boys were going to go in and kill everybody. He wanted something and said, hey, what can I do to merit your favor so you'll want to do this? What can I do that's pleasing in your sight? So that's a very important piece of this, how this starts out. It's all about meriting favor. Okay? Because after all, he was in disfavor with Esau when he left. And Esau was not happy to the point where he wanted to kill him. And he didn't know where he was now. So rather than go there and say, by the way, Esau, do you still want to kill my master Jacob? Send his messengers to find out. Instead, he goes and he just says, here are gifts. Your servant is here. He wants to bestow you with gifts and, honor you and that kind of thing. So he did it in that way. Okay? All right. Anybody else? Janet? Okay, I've got one more for 32. Okay, Manny, what do you got, 32?
Okay.
I got two more anyway for 32.
Let's see, I've got a couple here. Let's see. Evangeline would like to know, 32:7, and Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. I don't know if you covered this. I wonder if he prayed to his Elohim for his plan to divide his family into two groups to meet Esau. Any thoughts?
Well, he actually, right after that, is praying to Yahweh about it, but he divides them into two groups. I mean, I think what this is more than anything else is a foreshadowing of his his camp, the camp of Yaakov or Israel, being split into two houses, into two kingdoms. So it's a little hint at that. It's a little foreshadowing. But he's doing it out of fear.
Okay.
Okay? So that's one of the verses I wanted to touch on. That's in verse 10 as well. Okay? Where he talks about, breaking them into becoming. He says, and now I have become two groups.
Got it.
Okay? And so that's sort of a foreshadowing. It also has to do with, in verse 11 of chapter 35, and Yahweh says, I am El Shaddai, and he says, bear fruit and increase, a nation and a company of nations shall be from you. There's your two groups again, okay? And so we have that as well, all right?
Okay, 32:24 and through 29. It says, Yaakov wrestled with man. Man didn't prevail. Man says, let me go. Man changes Yaakov's name. Is this man an antichrist? Because the real Elohim does the name change with Yaakov in 35:10.
No. Okay, well, first of all, when he talks about, in verse 28, but the idea of striving with Elohim and with men, he's using it men as in, like, you had your battles with Esau, you're about to have your battle with Esau, you had your battles with Lavan, you've done other things. You've had to deal with man, but you've also been dealing with Elohim and trying to understand that relationship, and you've overcome, okay? See, this is the metaphor for something that we do in life. We wrestle with ideas. We wrestle with our beliefs. We wrestle with who we listen to and our authority. So that's what he's talking about here. It's a metaphor for Jacob's wrestling with humanity, with the below, as well as with the above. All right? So the one who he's wrestling with, by the way, does say in verse 28 that your name is going to be changed to Israel. And it's confirmed in chapter 35. Okay? But this one over here had the authority to do that. But it's actually more interesting than that, I think, and I think it hit me today. Remember I told you I was going to listen with kind of new ears to this. All right? So in verse... this is a verse I was going to talk about anyway, verse 29 of chapter 32. But he says, and Yaakov asked him, saying, please let me know your name. Now bear in mind, they've been wrestling, and this man, first of all, we know this is not a man. Jacob knows it's not a man. He said, I'm not letting go until you bless me. So he's asking for a blessing from this being he knows can give blessing. And he says, please let me know your name. And he said, why do you ask about my name? And he blessed him there. Okay? And then Jacob says, Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, okay? For I've seen Elohim face to face and my life is preserved. He knew who he was dealing with, not an anti-Messiah, this was a representative of the Most High. I've interacted with Elohim face to face, Peniel. Okay? And my life is preserved. Now, interesting when he says, why do you ask about my name? So, what did we teach you about the name in the teaching No Other Name? He's saying, okay, you've wrestled with men, you're trying to understand men, right? That's the idea of wrestling with. It's a metaphor. It's an idiomatic idea. Trying to figure men out. I just can't figure people out. He's wrestling with men. Not just battling, but he's been trying to figure people out. And I'm trying to figure Elohim out as well. And yet he's overcome. And then he asks this question, what is your name? Let me know your name. And then he's thinking, you know who I am. Okay, because name is reputation, it's who you are, it's that essence of everything about authority. And he goes, why do you ask? And he blessed him, and in verse 30, it's clear he knew exactly who he was dealing with. Okay? In other words, it doesn't matter that one's name, it's whose name and authority I'm working under. He says, why do you ask me my name? Okay? And that's part of his coming to understand. Remember, he started seeing things a little more clearly when he had the vision with the ladder. And he had Yahweh above the ladder and watching the messengers going up and down. And we talked about that last time. And some of these other things that were going on as he's trying to wrestle with the vertical concepts. Something we all do our whole life as we're trying to understand, him. That's why we do these studies every Tuesday, right? We're trying to understand him. And so that's what that's going on over here. So take this as, yes, I don't want to get in trouble when people think that I don't think this literally happened. It literally happened. Okay? Jacob did walk with a limp, after this. It says it very clearly in verse 31. But the literal was the smaller part of the message. Okay? It was teaching us more of a remez, a hinted at deeper understanding. It hints at things in terms of our wrestling with humanity and wrestling with Elohim. And that's an internal battle we all fight all the time. We wrestle with our flesh and we wrestle with our vertical relationship. We strive. We struggle. And so I think does that make more sense now to everyone? Okay, Manning?
Okay, next one is, I guess, same area. They want to know regarding the wrestling, this person sees it as wrestling with all my fears to overcome them. Is this what you were addressing also when you talked about owning our choices?
Yes, it's what I was talking about, but like I said, that's only a small part of what we see here. He's wrestling with his fears. He's wrestling with understanding his relationships. He's trying to understand how to deal with people. He's trying to understand how to deal with Elohim. And yes, fear is a part of the problem that he's still struggling with, because once he can get the fear out of the way, that means that he understands the relationship. Okay? I'm not afraid of a hot stove. I understand now that it's hot and that it can burn me and I can avoid touching it. So I have no fear. Okay? So once he understands man, he'll have no fear. Once he understands Yahweh, he'll have no fear. He's still afraid of different things because he still has unknowns that need to be filled in. So when you're afraid, add that to part of your personal development. There's still things that you've not yet turned from an unknown into a known vertically. Or about man. Well, I'm afraid my boss will fire me if I make a stance about the holy days. Well, if he's going to fire you, that's a known. What are you afraid of? Oh, you're afraid you don't know what you do if you get fired. You're afraid you don't think you'll be able to find another job. So these are all fears now vertically, not trusting that Yahweh can provide. What have I been telling you guys a lot for the last 6 months to a year? Every time you're dealing with some sort of a challenge and fear, bring reality into it. Let's change the wording on that. Bring the known into it. Change the unknown to a known, and you can stop being afraid. Okay? I've got people that contact me sometimes and they have abusive spouses. I say, okay, why are you afraid? I'm afraid they're going to do it again. Well, if that's a known, then you have a choice. You stop being afraid of it knowing it's going to happen, or you stop being afraid of it and leave. But you're afraid because you haven't yet accepted and embraced what you know. And now you can make a choice based on known. Well, what if he doesn't do it again? Well, what if he does? Well, you need to work that out with him and figure it out and have a plan. And how many times are you going to stay there every time it happens and not leave? But yet, you're still living in unknowns instead of accepting the knowns. Well, does he want to stay? I don't know. Well, you need to turn that into a known. Get all your questions answered. Well, I'm afraid to ask. Are you afraid to ask? You're afraid what the answer might be. The answer is still the answer, whether you ask him or not, or her. I mean, a lot of times even the women could be the abusive ones. But if you don't ask, the answer's still there. Turn your unknowns into knowns, and the fears will go away. But then if you get the answer to one thing, then you're dealing with another unknown. Well, what if he does this or she does that, and then now I don't know what to do next? Figure it out. Get answers. Turn those unknowns into knowns. First, you got to accept the idea that whatever happens, there is a absolute guaranteed information out there somewhere on how you can do it. We don't live in a place where without help. The government will help, the ministry can help, friends will help. There's things that can happen. But you don't trust, that's where the problem is. You're afraid because you don't think that it will actually work out. Even though you know people in the same condition or worse that are actually getting help and they're doing fine. I didn't say they're doing great and thriving right away, but they're doing fine. They're out of their problem where they were, and they're fine. Where they can now go from fine to good, and from good to great. And great comes from shalom. Not great comes from, overwhelming abundance and wealth, but shalom. When you go from fear to shalom, that journey goes from fear to okay, to fine, to good, to great. And then you're filled with shalom. Did you follow that? Okay? All right, hopefully that kind of was a long-winded way of answering all this. But remember, everything in your book is the story of the battle between fear and doubt versus trust and belief. That's the whole book, Genesis to Revelation. It's that battle that's going on in your head and in your heart. Fill it with knowns. Look, what did the first thing Hasatan ever say? Is what you have a known or an unknown, he said to Eve. Did Yahweh really say? Did he say you couldn't do this? Did he say this other thing? Why did she fail? Because she didn't have the thing as a known. She still had questions. She still had doubts. Remember, fear and doubt was winning out here between known and solid ground, trust, belief, emunah. There's the battle, right? And we all struggle. Fill that up with knowns. Okay, next.
In relation to that, MTOI Philippines Jet wanted to know, Rabbi, we have a different culture here, but why is fear always related to weakness? Trying to explain here in our language.
Why is fear always related to weakness? When we use the metaphor of strength and weakness, we picture something that is weak as bendable, as breakable, as fragile. Something that's strong is unbreakable, unyielding, unbendable. Okay, and so it's that metaphor for that. So when you have fear, which is connected to weakness, what's the weakness? The weakness in your heart and in your mind. It's not a physical weakness. You've not yet become solid in your emunah, which is strength. Firm in your emunah, firm in your shalom, firm in your confidence, belief, and trust. Bitachon. Okay? And so this is a problem. Okay, the problem is where we are in terms of that's strength. Okay, so when I say somebody's weak, it has nothing to do with your personality or your physical prowess. It has to do with how much you trust and believe and how firm that is. Okay? Think of it this way. I mean, this is a great metaphor that I heard one time in a personal development thing. You have an idea. Think of your idea as like a tabletop, all right? It's an idea. You got this tabletop. If I give it one leg, not even with a base, just a straight pole leg, how stable is that table going to be? It's going to fall right over, okay? What if I gave it two legs? Still going to be wobbly and hard to, depending on how you perfectly try to balance that. What if I give it three legs? Now it could be fairly firm. What if I gave it 100 legs? It'd be like standing on the ground if you wanted to stand on it. So is your belief one, two-legged? That's weak. You can't put anything on it. There's no stability to it. You can't build on it. You can't stand on it. But what if you had that known trust, belief, emunah, faith, shalom about whatever it is that you're thinking? That'd be like giving it dozens of legs. You could climb up and stand on that thing, jump up and down and dance on it. It's not going to break. It's strong. Does that kind of picture work for you? Okay? But in the meantime, you've got this very wobbly one- and two-legged thing. And even if you put 3 or 4 legs on a table, you know you can just go in the middle of it, jump up and down, and you can still crack it and break it. There's places of weakness. You start putting 5, 6, 8, 10 legs on the thing all over the place, you start taking away any spot that could be weak, where it could break or bend or get damaged. Amen? And it doesn't matter how thick the wood is either. If you're making a wooden table, you can make it really thin. You put 100 legs on it, you might as well just might as well just laid it on the floor. You take the thinnest piece of wood, lay it on the floor, and you jump up and down on it, nothing's going to happen to it because you're like standing on the floor. It's completely supported. Oh, I think that's actually a great word there. Now I'm glad that he triggered that thought. You don't have enough support for your thoughts. The more support you have for your thoughts, the stronger your thoughts get. There's your strength. What's weak is when you have no support. In other words, you haven't brought enough reality in or known in. Every time you get some known, it supports the idea. Every time you take a little bit of unknown out of it, it strengthens the idea. Okay? So think of all those legs as all things that support the idea. So you weren't real confident in something, and then somebody important in your life, like mom or dad, told you you were stupid or incompetent or were terrible at something, and then somebody else told you, oh, never mind, you'll never be any good at that. And next thing you know, you're building a solid, strong base to something that's terrible in your life. And you wonder, I don't know why I can't stop thinking this way. Well, because look at how many legs the thing has. You need to break its legs. You got almost no people supporting the right concepts, and you listen to all of these people, including yourself, strengthen like crazy this other idea. And then you wonder why you're struggling. Which is why you need to be concerned about your inputs. Talked about that the last time, right? And you need to be putting in all of the stuff all the stuff I tell you every Rosh Chodesh, especially on the Rosh Chodesh, so I tell you, you can get there from here. Oh, but if you don't believe that, then my saying it doesn't matter. Because there's no idea to support if you don't even believe it. Okay? Well, let's see. I know he called me. I said, give you support, right? I tell you, he called you. He wouldn't tease you. He called you knowing you could get this. I'm giving you all these supporting ideas to make that thing solid. But you still have it swimming upstream against all the people in your life, including you, telling you what a loser you are and you'll never amount to anything. And that you're a failure and you can't get there. And why are you listening to them anyway? Are they so successful? Is their lives so great? No. They're probably people with train wrecks for lives that you're listening to. But you're listening anyway. Because we never decided to own the decision to listen to them or not. Because as soon as they said it, it still was theirs. It wasn't yours until you decided to receive it. You could have chosen to just ignore it and not receive it. Your choice. Of course, you had to realize you had a choice. Well, now you know, bringing known into the unknown. Okay, Manny? We're going to turn this into, otherwise we're going to just turn this into a complete personal development seminar here.
All right, we had another question coming in. Actually, there was quite a few questions coming in from people wanting to know if the person he was wrestling with was Yeshua.
It doesn't say. There's no way to actually make that leap. Okay, so the Jews, no, I'm not going to confuse the issue. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, they have their own speculations of who it was and what it was and everything else. We don't know. All we know is that the person had authority, the being had authority to bless Yaakov, and Yaakov recognized that this one represented Elohim. Okay?
Perfect.
Okay.
Leads into the next question.
And hold on, and just remember from a royalty, back in the days when we had things like royalty and kings and authority, when he said, listen, when he said face to face, I have seen Elohim face to face, that doesn't mean he necessarily saw Elohim himself. The representative of the king was like dealing with the king himself. Okay, so he knew whoever it was that he was wrestling, had full authority and representation of Elohim. So he had confidence to say, I have face-to-face interacted with Elohim, with a spokesperson of Elohim. Okay? Now, could it be more literal and have it been Yeshua? Absolutely. But there's nothing here to really take it definitively in that direction. All right.
Okay, next question going into that. Somebody wants to know in chapter 32, when Jacob is wrestling with the man and refused to let go until he was blessed, does he do this knowing how he received the first blessing?
I'm not sure I understand the question. He did this for only one reason. He knew the one he was wrestling with could give a blessing. He knew that he'd been in fear. He knew he'd been praying. Okay? He knew what was going on about to meet Esau. And so once he realized this was a messenger of Elohim, he said, I'm going to hold on and ask for what I need. Okay? So think about it in your life when you're going through some really challenging times. Hold on tight, don't let go, and keep asking Yah for what you need. But don't let go. Okay? Yaakov did split the camp and do all these other things, but he didn't run away. He was committed to go see Esau the next morning. So there was nothing from that level of the fear. He was willing to go and take whatever was going to happen. He was still just asking, I know I have to go do this. I know it's going to... Look, some of you have to do that when you go face your family this time of year. Hey, I know what's going to happen. It's not going to be good, or it could go whatever way. And just ask Yahweh, show me favor. Bless me in this thing I'm about to do. I know it could go very badly or it could go well, but be willing to take it either way. Jacob was ready to go see Esau. That wasn't the problem. Okay? He had already made that commitment. He tried to hedge the bet a little bit and split the camp in case Esau went to start killing everybody. At least half of them would survive and have time to run. Okay? Next question.
Okay, still in 32, 25 and 32. Do you think that Esau came to fight but felt compassion towards his brother when he saw him disabled?
It doesn't say. So I don't think that Esau, I think it all had to do with the approach that Yaakov had. Esau's thing was machismo. Okay, he was an ego, prideful, think of your sort of raging steroid man. This guy was a man's man, hunter, and he needed someone to build him up and tell him he's in charge. And so it was all of the approach of Yaakov as servant, as giving gifts, of showing him respect, that he recognized that his brother, because he thought his brother was a usurper trying to steal his thing, and then now he's going to own it and hold it in his face and think, well, I'm not bowing down to you, Instead, Yaakov was very humble. I think that's what made the difference. I don't think that the hip thing, it never even is discussed that he even noticed it. Okay? As a matter of fact, he doesn't ever even refer to, hey, we'll follow you a little behind. As you can see, I'm injured here and I'm not going to be moving so quick. He says the children can't move so quick, the cattle can't move so quick, so we'll just take our time and follow behind you. He doesn't say, well, look at me, as you can see, I can hardly walk. So I don't think that was an issue at all.
The last one I have for 32 was just a comment. 32:29 from Melissa. We also wrestle for the name Israel.
Okay. One thing last, it's just kind of just in there for verse 32. So the Jews, which is the only representative clarity of representation of Israel today. Okay, so the children of Israel to this day don't eat the sinew of the hip. Okay, so just so that you guys understand two things. One is, if that were a Torah command, you could forget about your filet mignon. Okay, and Jews won't eat that. All right, because it has to do with the idea that they can't extract the sciatic nerve properly out of the sinew there. But it's a tradition. It's not a Torah command. It simply says, because of this with Jacob, their tradition had become not to eat this. Okay? All right? And so it's not something that's a kosher rule. Okay? It's a tradition. All right? Just want to throw that out there in case it ever came up. It doesn't every study, but sometimes it comes up. All right, chapter 33. Janet's got something. Okay.
No, I was just focusing on 33:5. It just caught my attention how he, started giving praise right away to, I was saying, it was him who blessed me with these children, and I had a question about the gifts. Would you say that that's a good approach whenever we have situation with somebody, like we're strained, like let's say husband, wife, or anything like that, to make it, I don't know, better or...
Okay, well, let's kind of repackage that, all right? It's a good idea to do, listen, so we're clear, do the things that would communicate what you want to communicate. Remember, he didn't just send gifts because he wanted to just hand him gifts. It wasn't just to give him stuff. This is all about communicating, I am looking at you as an authority. Okay? Look, the reason why they gave gifts and brought gifts to Yeshua, they thought he was king. When he was born, they said they came, because you come before the king, you bring gifts. So this is a recognition that Yaakov is saying, because otherwise, if he saw himself the way Esau thought he would be expecting Esau to bring gifts and him to come and kiss his ring, so to speak. Okay? So when you're dealing with struggles with a relationship with your spouse or with somebody else, you may want to do the things that you know are pleasing in their sight, especially the things that will have them see you the way you want them to see you. So if they're not seeing you, let's say we're talking about the wife and then we'll take the husband. If they're not seeing you as a submissive wife who's caring and supportive of what they're doing, how about approach them instead of saying, you're serving them with gifts, going and saying, hey, sweetheart, I want you to know that I love you and I believe in you and I'm here, to go on, to hang this ride through with you. Give them the encouragement to know that I'm just giving an example. And the other way around, let's say you as a husband know that your wife is looking at you and disappointed, frustrated, whatever, because you're not maybe getting it done, providing for the house the way you need to get it done. And how about going over and saying, look, I get that. I'm putting applications. I'm doing this other thing. I'm trying to do this thing. Say the things necessary to have them see you the way you want them to see you. Yaakov wanted Esau to see him as humble and submissive to recognize Esau's greatness, so to speak. And it worked, okay? And the same thing, with any kind of relationship, okay? So you need to do the things that you need to do if you want to mimic this that will help the person you're trying to interact with see you the way you want them to see you. See, the problem is you're more focused on them being the way you want them to be, so you see them the way you want. Okay? But if you're going to play it out this way, then you should be doing things so that they will see you the way you want them to see you. If they're seeing you as whatever they're seeing you, and that's not the way you want to be seen, then you need to act a different way and convince them and say the things and do whatever actions are there to convince. Okay? All right? If you're a guy and you know your wife thinks that you don't care because you're not getting anything done at home, you leave all these tasks that are undone, everything else, go ahead and do a few of those and go over to her and say, sweetheart, I just wanted you to know I got all these things done because I want to show you that I do care about these things. And if you're the wife and whatever the other side of that is, then, understand that you can do the things that you know he's been wanting you to do to show him. This goes back to like the love language thing. Okay? This is Yaakov speaking Esau's love language. He stroked his pride and ego and convinced him that he wasn't a threat and that he was humble, that he was a servant. Okay? Because he didn't see it that way when Jacob left. Because after all, if Esau had done that, he certainly wouldn't have acted like this. He would have gotten it right in the other person's face and said, I'm the one now and I'm in charge and I'm whatever. All right? Okay? Look, you can see this culturally even today. I know a lot of people don't like Trump. They don't like what Trump has done or whatever. But you know what? There's a reason why he treated Putin and Kim Jong-un the way he did, okay? compared to the Mexicans or some of the other nations. Because culturally, in dealing with someone like Putin, intimidation was never going to work. He had to stroke his ego. Same thing with the North Korean. That's where they were coming from culturally. Whereas fear and intimidation is more cultural for where the Mexicans were coming from. And so he said, oh, no, we're going to build a wall. We're going to make you pay for it. He would never have said that kind of stuff to the Chinese or the Russians. What does he say to them all the time? Oh, we're doing great, and I'm so glad this is all going to work out. In the meantime, I'm going to do this. He's doing nothing they like. But publicly, he's stroking them. And again, this is not saying negative things about the Mexicans and positive things about the Russians or whoever it is. I'm just saying is understanding the culture. Okay? All right? Okay, so power in the one is held a certain way, received a certain way, and looked at a certain way. Power is done a different way in a different culture. Okay? And so he was being brilliant. People say, oh no, how could he like that guy? He doesn't like that guy. He's playing the game. It's negotiation. Read his book. Okay? And that's all that Esau was doing, the exact same thing. Because people say, wow, does he really like Esau? I mean, Jacob is like giving him gifts and saying, I'm so. No, he understands how to play the game. He knew exactly what he needed to do to not get killed by Esau. At least he had a hope that it would work. He understood the pride and the ego he was dealing with. That make sense? Okay. All right, so you can even see this today, so you can see that play through. All right, continue. Chapter 33, right? All right, Manny?
Okay. 33:9. This shows how brotherly love can melt away the biggest of conflicts. Thank Abba that he's instructed us to practice this.
Okay, I'm going to say I'm not sure that's what you're seeing here, but yes. Okay? I don't think this is brotherly love necessarily. I don't know what this was, okay? It does say that Esau wept and ran over to see him or whatever, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he was just relieved that he wasn't going to have to kill his brother. I don't know what it was, okay? All right? So I don't know how to read this. Because Esau still does not hold a very high esteemed place in Scripture from this point forward, continuing through. So maybe. I would agree with you that, yes, it's good to see that, yes, brotherly love should help overcome almost anything. I'm just not so sure that's what's happening here necessarily. Okay? All right. Continue.
And the only other one I have is also a comment regarding Genesis 33:13 through 14. Going at the pace of the children in flocks seems like a similar concept to Philippians 2:3, in that in humility consider others better than yourself.
Again, I think we're stretching for all kinds of wonderful motives that weren't necessarily there. Okay? Okay? Look at what happened also, by the way, when Esau weeps. Why does Esau run over to meet him and weep? Because Jacob just showed up and bowed down 7 times to the ground in front of him. Okay, this wasn't, like Joseph and his brothers, okay, which was more the case of what you guys are talking about, okay? It says, and he himself passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept, okay? And so it's hard to know how to read all of that into everything, but yes, I mean the things you're saying are absolutely true. I just don't know that they're true here necessarily. There's so much other stuff going on with the players in this part of the story. Okay? And by the way, when we talk about in the teaching what is worship, we show how Jacob bows down to Esau. There's other people bowing down to people, and so bowing down is not necessarily forbidden. It's a matter of what you're bowing down for and how you're recognizing authority. Okay? Bowing down before other gods, that's a problem. Bowing out of respect to authority is not a problem. Okay? And so that's an important little piece of this puzzle here. Okay? And we see that, and listen to the teaching, what is worship, and you'll kind of figure that out. Okay, Manny?
That's all I had for 33. Did you want me to go to 34, or do you have something for 33?
Okay, 34.
34?
Okay, Janet's got 34, but you go first.
Okay, Christy, how on Genesis 34:5, what lesson can we learn from Jacob waiting until his sons came home before answering the situation?
Okay, so what do you guys think? Why did Jacob wait? Okay? If you wait to tell people all at the same time, you control the narrative, you control the story, you keep the gossip from spreading, okay? You control people jumping to wrong conclusions, and if they start to, you can have it happen right in front of you, and you can go, hold on, stop, that's not where we're going, don't go that way, don't do this. Hold your reactions, right? Okay? So he wanted to have them there together so he could tell them. All right? Good question. Okay. Go ahead, do another one.
Okay.
I got a lot for 34, so.
Genesis 34:13. So the sons of Israel gave the decision to Hamor and Shekel. How does this decision-making work between the father and sons, authority-wise? Israel later was... I didn't get the rest of the question on there. But there's actually quite a few asking, why are the sons of Yaakov giving an answer in this matter? I thought the father was the ultimate authority on such matters.
Well, they're speaking up for the same reason they all get skipped and it goes down to Joseph. Because they're all undeserving, because they don't have any respect. They're all doing whatever they're doing. There's usurping going on all over the place. And eventually we see Reuben even doing it with Bilhah. Okay, I mean, there's lots of things that are disrespectful going on here. So yes, you are correct that they should not have been speaking. All right? Especially not with their father in the room. This is a problem, by the way, culturally, and we have today, and we see this happen and play out all the time. All right? Ladies, if your husband is in the room, in the space, in a conversation, in a group of people, let him do the talking. Unless you are being addressed directly, and if you are, you can look to him and ask, make sure it's okay with him for you to, I'm not trying to diminish that. Same thing with all of you. If your teacher's in the room, or your boss is in the room, or whatever, defer to the authority person in the room. Learn to practice that, okay? We've lost that in our culture. Other cultures, if there's an authority figure in the room, those that are less than that person's authority generally would never open their mouth unless the authority person gave them permission to speak. As a matter of fact, in the military and places like that, they will ask permission to speak. They will ask, sir, may I have permission to speak? Otherwise, they're just going to stand there unless someone directs them to speak, because the authority figure's in the room. I see this as a problem on Facebook all the time, where people will ask a question. This used to happen when I used to answer all the Facebook questions. As fast as I would post the question as approved, and I'm starting to type out my answer, somebody else will jump in and answer. And I'm like, why would you do that? We have it on the top pinned post. Let the leadership answer the question. Or I'll answer the question and someone else will come in and chime in and go, well, hold on, if I answer the question, why is anybody else speaking? I'm the teacher in the situation. Oh, that sounds all kinds of ego and pride. No, it's proper respect. Okay? Ladies, if you've got children in your house and you've got a husband and he says something in front of those children, don't you undermine that, override that, or speak up. Let him make the decision. Well, he makes terrible decisions. So what? Work that out with him privately. Okay? I remember having to do this with both sets of in-laws, just so you know, my parents and my wife's parents. Okay? So both sets of parents. And my children were in a room, and I was standing right there, or my wife was standing right there. The child did something. The grandparent went to discipline the child. I said, excuse me, the mother is right there, or the father's right here. They're not your children. That's not to say that a grandparent couldn't discipline a child if nobody else is around. But if the parent is around, by the way, you're in the house, the parent's right there, you don't do it either if it's not your kid. The parent's right there, but that's their kid, it's their problem. Okay? You may look at your friend, if they're your friend, and say, you gonna let them just do that? and have a conversation, but that's not your choice. You can't just usurp and jump in there. You do see that happening here with the sons. They're jumping in and trying to get what they want out of this. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay? There is deceit going on. It says that in verse 13. Okay? They spoke with deceit. They already got a plan up their sleeves what they're going to do here. Okay? Okay, what's next?
We have another one for Genesis 34, 15 through 24. Is this referring to becoming of the circumcision, not just the physical act? Is this also an example of the nations looking at Israel's blessings from Yahweh and wanting what they have?
I'm going to say in this particular case, this is just Peshat, what it says. Shechem wanted Dinah. Hamor wanted Shechem to have Dinah. They didn't know what they needed to do that. It says that Shechem was the most respected member of the household in verse 19. Okay? And so this is a close nation that revered its leadership, there. And so, they were going to be willing to do whatever was necessary to please and honor. You got to remember, this is not that unusual. You can consider how many people would go out to war to fight for their king, knowing full well they were probably going to die. Okay? So to have the king or the king's son get what he wants out of all this, to go ahead and get circumcised and stuff, this had to do with making peace. It had to do with covenanting between each other. I don't think there was a single thing that had to do with the vertical stuff necessarily here. It doesn't say anywhere that this had anything to do with vertical. It's not like when you read in the book of Esther, your Elohim is my Elohim, and your people, my people, that kind of thing. It says, well, your daughters will go to our sons, and our daughters will go to your sons, and we'll become like one people. We're going to intermix. There's no real vertical mention of anything here. Okay? The only vertical thing that's mentioned is that they say it's not right for our daughter to marry someone uncircumcised. Okay? Now, first of all, they figured nobody was going to be willing to. There's no way they're going to do this. I mean, I've got to believe they first threw that out there going, okay, they want us to make any kind of offer. We'll make one they definitely will never do. And they say, sure, we'll do it. And then they're like, okay, now what? Well, we're going to go in there and kill them all. So why are they doing all of this anyway? Well, verse 23 tells you. It says, their herds and their possessions and all their beasts, should they not be ours? Only let us agree with them and let them dwell with us. They had a bunch of financial gain in mind. There was really no caring that much about their sister. Okay? They wanted, this was greed and nothing else. Because after that, it talks about the plunder and how they killed everybody, but not just killed everybody, but they took everything. When Abraham, might have still been Abram, went to rescue Lot, he didn't take anything. He rescued his nephew, killed whoever he needed to kill as part of that, right? But he left everything, didn't take the plunder. He said, except that which was appropriate to those who went, their share for risking their lives, whatever it was. But he said, I'm not taking anything. But here, it was all about what they could get. Okay, so that's where, and it says that was the deceit that we see in verse 13. So, maybe I need to just jump in here before we get too many other questions just to clarify something really important. Okay, you probably learned this in church, probably learned this in other places, how Dinah was raped. Dinah wasn't raped. Okay? Nowhere does it say that. It says in verse 31, they said, they treat her like a whore? In other words, that she's willing just to have sex with people. Doesn't say anything about rape. If she was raped, why was she still in Shechem's house all this time until the boys went in and killed everybody? No, they're saying it was inappropriate that she should be defiled by someone uncircumcised and not married to him, which is what you might do with a whore. You don't marry her, you just have sex with her. But look what it says about the boy. See, rape is a violent, hateful thing. It's not a love thing. It says here that when he saw her, okay, his being clung to Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. In verse 3. Okay, he says when he saw her, he took her and he lay with her and he humbled her. But his being clung to her and he loved the girl and spoke kindly to her. Rapists don't speak kindly to you. Certainly not after the act. Okay, maybe as a way to entice you into it, but they're certainly not going to be doing that. And then he spoke to his father. He says, I want to take this girl as a wife. I want to marry her. I want to take care of her. I want to provide for her. And the whole rest of the story is the love this boy has for this girl. They got carried away. Because I don't see any way, if she is raped, Jacob allows any of this negotiation and allows her to stay there. Because it says here in verse 26, they killed Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house. She was still there. This wasn't like he had to go rescue like Lot had to be rescued. Okay? You don't see him going outraged. You need to return my daughter right now before we kill all of you for doing this to my daughter. Now, you don't get to see her say anything. But, she first starts off with the problem, and this is why we have to be careful with our children. She goes out, and she went out to see the daughters of the land. She wanted to see how they lived and what they did. Because after all, she'd been sheltered her whole life living with Yaakov and the whole tribe. And now they're in a land here with all these other people doing other things. And she wanted to go check it out. See how the other half lives, so to speak, the rest of the world. What are they doing? And she meets a boy. And this is the son of the king. And she does lay with him. Doesn't say that he just, Now he humbled her, because that's another phrase for that. He did lay with her. They had sex, but he laid with her, but they were not married. Okay? But he realized to do the right thing because he loved her. He wanted to marry her. And he spoke kindly to her. We can see this in all these verses where it talks about how he felt about her. In verse 8, Hamor says, my son Shechem's being longs for your daughter. Please give her as a wife. Verse 11, Shechem said to her father and her brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say that I will give. I want your daughter. Okay? This is not a kid who's embarrassed that he messed up and he's just trying to fix the problem. He says, I really want her. And apparently she's not screaming to come out of his house. That didn't seem to be a problem. Okay? So let's just kind of keep that in mind as we go through the whole thing. And not only that, but this Shechem, he was the most respected member of the father's household. You're not generally going to find rapists that end up in that position. Okay? It's a sociopathic sort of personality. People are not going to think they're the highest respected, and people are going to really look up to them, et cetera, et cetera. There's going to be something off about them. Okay? But this was it just happened to be two kids got carried away. And that's why Jacob isn't reacting overly strongly here. He realizes this is one of those deals. He doesn't know how he wants to handle it right off the bat. He just knows that he's now put in a very challenging position. She clearly wants him. He wants her. What am I going to do? This is not the way things are supposed to be. But the deed has been done. Now what? Now the boys are flipping out. But they're using it as deceit, though. Notice that they're using this as an excuse. We've never seen that before, right? Nations, people, countries using a plausible excuse to justify an action, even though they really didn't care about the excuse. It was just something they knew was a defendable excuse. Okay? Because clearly he wasn't treating her like a whore. He was going to make her the queen or the princess. The whole nation was willing to do this so those two could be together. They wouldn't want to do that unless he was that highly respected guy. I mean, think about what this really says about everybody. We've been sold this completely wrong. Okay? The real bad actors in here are Levi and Simeon. Okay? They're your really bad actors here. And that's where we end up with the real problem. Okay? They're not overreacting. They're using it as an excuse. They didn't like these people. They didn't like what they had. They wanted it for themselves. Okay? Let's remember, these are the same guys that we know are capable of selling Joseph into slavery. Okay? All right? So we shouldn't be surprised by the time we get to that these are the same guys capable of that. Okay, Janet, you had something?
Yes, Rabbi. So I know with the Ten Commandments it says do not commit adultery, but in this case it wasn't really adultery. It was them, like you said, carried away, and then he was willing to marry Dinah.
No, it's fornication. It's not adultery.
So, right,
it's fornication.
So where in the Torah do we learn about that piece, the fornication?
Well, there's a lot of scriptures that we cover in the rules about, okay, where it talks about, for example, if a man lays in wait to take a woman and then it is rape, or if it's two people consensual, if one's married and the other one isn't, then it's adultery. I mean, there's a whole section that covers that whole thing, okay? And it does cover also that if it's two people, then they need to go ahead and get married and do the right thing. And that's where the man will have to then pay silver to the father because he inappropriately just took the daughter, but then needs to now go make her wife and do the right thing about it. Okay, so there's a whole section of Torah about that. Okay? All right. And that, I believe, is in Deuteronomy. Okay? Might be in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, but I think it's in Deuteronomy. Okay. Go ahead, Manny. It's already 10:30, so we got to make this quick, but go ahead.
Just the question to that, would those rules and regulations technically only be for the covenanted?
As far as the rules about the sexual interaction, and it would absolutely just be for the covenanted unless the other nation had its own rules about it, okay? But it would be for the nation, so it's the nation's rules. The thing is, this is now an interaction between nations that happened that was out of control of the authority, which was Yaakov. And so they now had to figure out what to do because it had happened. They're now dealing with well, this has already happened, now what do we do? Okay?
Got it.
All right?
Yes, sir. Okay, 35:14. This person says, I'm still new and not sure I'm understanding about the offerings. Are we supposed to be making drink or oil offerings? How are offerings different from sacrifices?
35:14. Okay, so in the sacrificial system or the temple system, there were offerings and there were sacrifices, okay? So sacrifices were obviously had to do with the slaughtering of an animal, okay? But you had offerings that had to do with meal offerings, and you had to do with wine offerings or drink offerings. These are all different types of offerings that were included as part of the sacrificial system. So yes, we can see, even going back to Adam and Chava, we can see this with Noach, we can see with Cain and Abel, that there were offerings being made, there were also sacrifices being made. They knew how to do these things. All right? So hopefully that answers the question. But yes, offerings were always a part of it as far as the sacrifices and offerings. Okay, the only difference being one has something dying. Okay?
As far as questions, it looks like I just have a lot of comments, and the next question is literally just in 36.
All right, if you have one. I don't have anything for 36, so go ahead, and then we'll kind of try to wrap it up.
They just want to know, is this the same Korach in Exodus for 36:4?
I was wondering the same thing. I have not done the genealogy research, but the idea would be no. You know why? Because who is Korach in Exodus story? I mean, who's his genealogy? Okay, well, who's it giving you here the children of in 36? Esau. Okay? What's the genealogy of Korach in Exodus? Levi. Okay, so that's Jacob, not Esau. Okay? So there you go. But I did think the same thought. That's why I started off that way. I said, oh, look, Korach. And then I realized, no, that's not the right one because it's Esau. Okay? Is that it? All right. And I think I probably preemptively took most of the Dinah stuff out with my little quick answer to the Dinah stuff. All right, look. And again, I'm not diminishing, that what she did was wrong and what he did was wrong. But it's different to say two young people got carried away versus he was raping her. Okay? Very, very different. All right? And the way the story plays out, it's a much better conclusion based on the full evidence of the verses that this was two young people getting carried away than to conclude that it was, against her will and rape. All right, just makes more sense based on the way he's described and how he feels about her. And that, especially the verse where it says he spoke kindly to her. Okay? Which is probably why she liked him in the first place. And they ended up having a relationship. It doesn't say for how long, and then they ended up getting intimate. Okay? And so, so you have that part of it going on. Did you have a question? No, we don't know their ages. And by the way, that was something I wasn't going to say, but I think we should keep that in mind. We don't understand the ages when we talk about how young people might be, and the Jews have some very interesting ideas of how old and young certain people were when certain things were going on. I mean, some of the ladies they have getting married and other things, they have them as really young. But if you would think that could be really young, meaning whatever age after puberty where they could be having babies, this would explain why, Bilhah might have been pretty enticing to Reuben if she really wasn't a whole lot older than him except, from giving birth and stuff. Because if she had been only a young teenager, when he was born, okay, then here she is, maybe he's in his 20s and she's in her 30s, And so, if he's 25 and she's like 40, that's not like, because you may be thinking, well, why would he be interested in her? She's got to be like 60, 70 at this point, and he's an adult male. Not necessarily, okay? There might have only been a short, a few amount of years between them, all right? And so, that being said, you might be picturing that a little differently. All right, is that it? Anybody else? We're good? All right, who's going to close this up? Look at that, all these hands going up. All right. Even on the back there, Harold's got his hand up too. Steve, take the mic over. Give it to Brian. Let's get him to do it. All right, Brian's going to go ahead and close us in prayer.
Abba, Father, Yahweh, our Elohim. Father, we come before you this evening to praise you for the opportunity to come together to study your Torah with our rabbi. Father, we just humbly ask that you watch over us this evening. Keep us safe as we return to our respective homes, and bless us the rest of this week until we come together again on your Sabbath. We come before you, Father, in the name and the authority of your Son, Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. Excellent study, everyone. And remember what I said. Own it. Okay? Own your choices. Okay? You make your choices and you claim you're a child of the living Elohim and you claim your covenant, you claim all these things. Well, own it. That means own every piece of what that means. And don't act all surprised and upset when parts of what he tells you is going to happen happens. You signed on for the whole thing, including eternal life, not just for eternal life, okay? You signed on for the whole package. All right, so if anybody wants to wave goodbye, you can come up here. We're going to say goodbye to everybody out there, tell them how much we appreciate that they are a part of the extended congregation. We'll get all warm together before we go out and freeze. All right. Because clearly it's less evident of you moving to get back there than just being in the front in the first place, right? And now drawing all this attention to yourself. You're welcome. You know me, all material must be used. Okay. All right, so let's communicate to all of them out there how much we really appreciate them by wishing them a Laila Tov, which is a good night, a Shavua Tov, which is a good week, and we'll tell them we love them on 3. 1, 2, 3. Laila Tov!